I'm Lisa Haisha. I'm here at the Soulblazing Sanctuary interviewing Eva Gregory. Here's who she is. She's a master law of attraction coach and author of several books and programs. She's regularly featured on radio and in the media. Eva is a recognized authority on the law of attraction. As co-host of her own radio shows, Eva has interviewed some of the most influential thought leaders today. Her newest book, Life Lessons for Mastering the Law of Attraction, co-authored with Jack Canfield, can be found in bookstores everywhere. Hi, Eva.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm great.
Wonderful. It's so good to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Sure. I want to know, what is the single greatest piece of advice you've ever received?
Oh boy. I have to say that the first one is that no matter what life throws at you, you have to hold on to your dreams and never give up. That is nice to hear, but when you get into the thick of things, it's a really big challenge to hang on to that. And yet that was something that got drilled into me that I'm extremely appreciative of early on in my life. And of course, understanding the power of the law of attraction. And basically, I just want to make sure everybody understands what I'm talking about when I say law of attraction.
Yes, please explain that.
Yeah, basically the law of attraction simply says wherever you put your focus, you're going to get more of that in your life. Now, here's where I put the emphasis. It's really on the emotion. It is the emotional charge you have on whatever you're focused on that's attracting to you more of the same. And our emotions are actually our inner guidance at the most basic, fundamental level. And a lot of folks think that our emotions are just knee-jerk reactions we have to things that are going on around us. And yet it's so much more than that. It is our inner guidance. And to be able to become more sensitive to our emotions, to understand that if I'm not feeling good about something, I need to stop and pay attention.
Yes.
I need to be conscious, intentional, and deliberate about what I choose to focus on. So I have an opportunity when I'm in those places to reach for a thought that feels, back to the emotions, that feels better. And if I can reach for a thought that feels a little bit better and I can feel myself get a little bit of relief, I've done my work. I've done the job. And this is the greatest thing about law of attraction. Most people don't understand it can be this simple. Not necessarily easy, I understand. But it really is, if you know that you can focus on something until you feel just a little bit better, then you do it again.
Can you share with us how we could actually implement that?
Absolutely. Here's where I'd love to share with you. This was like the biggest, most transformational turning point in my life when it came to law of attraction, and it was probably one of the biggest setbacks I ever had to overcome in my life. There have been many, but this was one of them. And that was when my mate and I had a software company, and we were leaking money like the proverbial sieve. We were doing everything we were told to do. All the authorities, all the consultants that told us what to do, looking for backers, looking for business partners, looking for capital, doing the dog and pony shows. We had an awesome program, and yet nothing was working. We were doing. We were in action, supposedly doing all the right things. And for 5 years, 1 year was worse than the next, and the next year was worse than the one before. We had creditors on our back personally. We had creditors on our back in the business. We had to lay off most of our people. Morale was non-existent in that company. I was lying in bed at 3 o'clock in the morning having anxiety and panic attacks, wondering what the heck were we going to do. If our landlord at the time had decided to evict us, we couldn't have even afforded to move our furniture. We would have had to just walk out. It was so ugly. It was so ugly. And the interesting thing about this is that was after I had learned about law of attraction. So what I've learned is that you can understand law of attraction intellectually all day long, but until you really understand how to work or use it and get it into the cells of your body, you're really not utilizing it. And one of those nights, 3 a.m. in the morning, for whatever reason, thank you God, I got this download that said, Eva, you understand law of attraction, and you're not walking your talk. And the message I got was to let everything go, let all the action we had been in go, and to go into that company and start to show them how to shift their energy beginning with me. And to be honest, I have to tell you, we had done everything else. I felt like I had nothing to lose at that point. And so I didn't care what anybody thought about me. I walked into that company the next day and I said, we're going to play a new game. A game now. You ready for this? We're going to have our imaginary prosperity account. And today, where everyone in this company has $10,000 to spend on this company in that account. And you can post on this big spreadsheet how you choose to spend your money today. And when we come in tomorrow, we're going to have $11,000 to spend in this company. On day 15, it'll be $15,000, and so it goes. Wow. So the unexpected surprise that I learned from this was that just by having this imaginary account where we were putting our focus on something that felt better than we had felt in so long, that just in that playing that imaginary account, the energy in that company shifted. People started being more civil to each other. People were being kind. There was a point when we were playing that game, marketing and sales both wanted to buy computers for the programming department, not even their own department, and started getting into arguments about who was going to get to spend the money on the programmers. This was an imaginary account. And yet that was what began to happen.
Okay,
and
that's wonderful.
The whole point here is the universe does not know whether it's your imagination when you finally get involved or focused on something, or if it's real. And because of that, the energy did shift.
Okay, my issue with law of attraction is that several of my clients came from law of attraction mentality, and they said exactly what you were saying. They didn't know it was imaginary or real. You know, the brain doesn't know. And they made a huge investment in their life based on, okay, I'm really thinking this, I'm believing it. The law of attraction says if I keep thinking it, it will happen, because they don't know the difference, act as if. And then they lost everything.
Yeah, that
After
is
watching The Secret.
Absolutely. You know, I have to say The Secret had its place, but it only is the tip of the tip of the tip of the tip of the iceberg. And so there was so much that people did not understand when they saw The Secret, and they accepted that as being the whole picture. And it isn't. And I would never have my clients go and make investments based on that. What I had was an imaginary account. I wasn't investing. I could go, if I could say, oh yeah, let's see, if I spend like a millionaire because I'm believing it, and I spend money I don't have, that is not law of attraction. There is a place in you, you do not believe that. You're hoping. And it's not meant to be that way. That's why we were spending imaginary money with each other. And within 9 months of playing that game in the company, after we'd stopped all that other action, we were doing what we needed to keep the doors open, right? You have to do something. You can't just lie in your bed. Someone knocked on our door we'd never heard of and said, we've heard about your software. We want to buy you out lock, stock, and barrel. And I want you to know the day we legally changed hands with that company, my mate Robin and I were on a 42-foot catamaran island hopping in the Grenadine Islands with friends. It was like night and day, basically going from no paycheck to no paycheck because we were trying to feed our skeleton crew to selling that company for an extremely hefty sum of money. Now, let me tell you something. This is important to understand about law of attraction. That was 9 months later. When you hear my story, oh, that sounds wonderful. But let me tell you, I still had my nights and anxieties. I still was going into panic attacks. I still was freaking out. But every time I did, I would reach for that thought I told you about. I've got to focus on something that feels a little better. What could just feel a little better right now? I had to do that 20,000 times a day, but I was not willing to give up. And every time I would shift my focus, even if something else slammed me in the side, I kept bringing it back because I was determined to prove this worked. Now, days went by and I was doing this work and I was still up and down and all around. Emotions were a roller coaster. Nothing in my outer environment had changed at all. And then weeks went by. I kept reaching for those thoughts that felt better. It was work. You know, law of attraction is not a fluffy subject.
No, it's not. And I think law of attraction is extremely important, and I live by it daily myself. But what I do is I also take a lot of action, and I do a lot of community, work, so legacy work, and I work with other people. And I think all those elements are just as important because it's so hard to be a lone ranger, especially being an entrepreneur. You really have to work with others to stay motivated, feel connected, and feel a larger sense of purpose and, a place in this world, in this field. So, yeah, I thank you so much for sharing your story, because that was a real life story that people could really get benefit from, where they actually really have to be there, do that, and it's not just, just think this and it's cured. You actually had your anxiety attacks.
It was not like that at all.
Yes.
That's my point. Was months went by and it still was not looking as if something had changed. It was 9 months. But this is where that piece of advice that I got, whatever life throws at you, hold on to your dreams and never give up. And that was what I was hanging on to.
So what do you say if someone's been hanging on to their dreams and it hasn't manifested in 10 years?
Yeah, so my point is there's always, when I work with someone, there's always something there that can be uncovered that's holding them back. And I'll tell you something else, too, that I found. Sometimes people have a dream and they're so adamant it must look a certain way that they don't even see it's right there in front of them.
Yes, absolutely. So you co-authored a book with Jack Canfield. How was that, and how did you get that going?
That was a law of attraction story itself, actually. That was Life Lessons for Mastering the Law of Attraction, 7 essential ingredients for leading a prosperous life. And when my business partner, Gina Gabellini, and I had our radio show called The Gina and Eva Show, and Gina was actually at a coaching conference he was being the keynote speaker of, and she went up to him and said, "Hey, we want to have you on our show." So this was back in, oh my gosh, the early 2000s. This was a long time ago. And he said yes. And so we had him on the show, and we were talking about law of attraction, and just had a great time. And he called us up after the show, and he said, "I want to know what you're on, because you're just having way too much fun, and I want to hang out with you." Okay. So that was where that got started. And then we approached him at that point and said, "We'd love to do a Chicken Soup for the Prosperous Soul book with you." And he said it was a great idea, and that's the track we started down on. But then this was when The Secret, by this time, The Secret has just started making its way around. Now, Gina and I have been teaching Law of Attraction since 1998. So this is not something new to us. But it was finally getting into the mainstream. And at that point, I thought, you know what? The book really should be about the law of attraction. The Secret was coming out, it was becoming more mainstream. So we sent him another proposal saying we'd like to do a book called Life Lessons for Mastering the Law of Attraction. Rather than being a chicken soup book, it would have those stories in it. But then Gina and I as coaches would write our coaches corner at the end of each of those stories, say, "Okay, now let us show you how you apply what this person applied in their lives so that you can make those changes too." And we had stories from people that are extremely well known to people that you would not know, all walks of life, just so we could show you that it doesn't matter who you are. The law of attraction levels the playing field for you. So you don't have to be of a certain culture or background or education. None of that matters. None of it matters. And we have some really powerful stories in that book. Just amazing stories. So that's how that
I would love to read that. I would love to read it.
I will send you a copy.
Okay, that would be wonderful. Thank you so much. And I have one more question. What do you want your legacy to be?
Of course, no surprise. I would love to see the understanding of universal principles that govern our lives, particularly the law of attraction, be taught in our school systems like reading, writing, and arithmetic, for it to be just that common. I think that if everyone understood the rules of life, there would be more compassion, more understanding, more peace, more prosperity, more love in the world. And for all of us to understand that and be growing up with that kind of understanding, that is where I think that we can change the world.
I agree, 100%. Thank you so much. You have been wonderful, and you gave us so many things to think about. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. I'll look forward to getting your book and reading it.
Be on the lookout. It's on the way.
Okay, thank you so much.